What's happening? Kyle Postlewaite, aka Malcare here at Big Kitty Games. It has been a long time since we did a stream, but I'm thinking I'm going to get back into it. I don't remember why I stopped streaming. I might have had an injury that kind of threw me off the wagon for a bit there, and I just didn't get back into it or what. It's been like 6 months though. Um, and it is a little stressful. Um, People watching you. You got a schedule to stick to. You got to worry about your hair did proper. You got nose hairs sticking out. What's going on? But I'm really not someone that worries too much about any of that. The cat cam is currently turned off. I apologize for that. My wife stole my cat cam. I'll have to steal it back. I should buy her own. She's been working at home a bit more these days. Let's see here. I should post in Discord that we are streaming. But, oh, that didn't work. Whatever. Give me a second. It's been a while since I did all of this, right? We've had some no, stop. Oh, no. Don't. Some tips and some purchases and some things over the past 6 months. So I gotta give thanks out for those. Let's see, we got Roboman54. Thank you very much. Can I scroll down? I can. Wild West USMC 1269 with a tip. Thank you very much. And I can't actually scroll properly in this window. Let me open up one that I can scroll properly here. Looking at my Streamlabs dashboard. I use Streamlabs to multi-stream. I'm actually not streaming to Facebook right now. I don't think I'm going to. The thought being that detracts from Twitch, because Twitch is really where I want people to be watching, but at the same time I do want to leave these videos up on YouTube, so I'm also streaming live to YouTube. I don't know. But anyway, Roboman54 with $20 tip, thank you very much. Stratagem, $30 tip. Says, excellent game. 3 of us bought Solace crafting together and played all night long. Different, exciting, full of surprises. Thank you very much, Stratagem. Sorry I wasn't there live to say thanks for you. Wild West USMC 1269. Thank you for the work. Hope the donation helps. It does very much. Thank you for the tip. Aprem83 with $10 coffee tip. Keep working hard on this gem. Ordered merch too. Thank you very much. I'm going to make some more merch too. I hadn't looked at this in a while, and there's actually some people buying mouse pads and some things. I kind of really only made like Big Kitty Game stuff, so I'm going to get in here one of these days and improve some of the I'd buy one myself, get a Solace crafting hoodie and some t-shirts and some things. We're right in the dead of winter. It's pretty cold. I got my cat gloves on. But it's going to be spring before you know it. Sneaky Sprite, it's a $5 tip. Can't improve if you don't have money for it. Thank you very much, sir or madam. Battle Stew, which we all know and love. That was back in May. I said thanks to him, but we'll go back that far. Say thanks again, Stu, for training me and variety of different things. So anyway, let's get into it. Today I want to start working on procedural monsters. I've kind of been taking a break on plugging in skills, though I still have some to do, just because it kind of drives me nuts to do the same thing for 3 weeks straight. And after I do this for a couple days, I can get back into that much more refreshed. So what I want to get into today is just something we've never done, so we're going to have to start out kind of fresh. We're going to be working on monsters, which we've got under entities here. The main script is going to be our monster AI. And one of the things that I want to do is not add on to this already big giant script. We've already got 1,500 lines here, which isn't a big deal. Some people complain about that. But, if you split things up into too many different files, then you're just managing files all day, every day, and that really doesn't improve your workflow at all. But I do want to create a separate file. Doesn't need to be a mono behavior or a network behavior, which would be something that exists in scene here on the object itself. We can just make a class, and I think it's just going to be something called, let's see, should we do entity stats? Does that work? Entity stat holder, maybe? It's good to be descriptive. Kusuno Kike, thank you for the follow. I've always wondered if I've seen you in chat recently. Thank you for the bug posts. And curious if you are Japanese or just a fan of, I'm not sure what that name maybe comes from something. But we are broadcasting live from the Japanese countryside, if you didn't know that. Entity stat holder. So basically something to hold each monster's basic statistics, much like the player has player stats. And again, I don't want to just add it all inside of here, so we're going to make a new script. It does not need to be a mono behavior. We do want it to be serializable, which means we are going to need to be using system. And this will let us look at it in the inspector when we click on it. And so we're not going to be using start or update since we are not a mono behavior. I like to leave Unity Engine in there for debugging purposes. It's lagging out here. So let's see. Kind of the question is, do we want to add all of the stats, or do we want to organize them into a generic list of holders? Like, we can do public float strength equals 1 kind of thing, or we could do public we could do, like, I've got one holder that's called a stat alteration. So we could do a, do you want to do a list? I don't think I want to do a generic machine like that. I could do, whoops, collections.generic. We could do a list of stat alterations, and this would, should I zoom up a little? I can zoom up. Make that a little easier to see. Monster stats equals new list. And then we could do things like we would have to go for int I equals 0. We would loop through this list, and if the one that we're looking at, his stat is equal to the stat we're looking for, then we would return that value. And this would let us not have to write these out all individually. Not all paths return a thing there. We can just do return 0 at the bottom there. Get rid of that error. So that drives me nuts. And then we could populate this list when the monster is created to say that he's got a strength of 1 and a stamina of 2 or whatever. And that makes for less code, but it also makes things kind of less visible. These are also serializable, so we will be able to see them in the inspector if this is the route that we go. It is just kind of nice sometimes to be able to look and really, actually plug in these numbers directly listed like this. But, because we are going to have, all monsters are going to have strength, stamina, agility, etc. It's really just, do we want to save time by leaving it like this, or does in the long run that not actually save us time? Another thing is, for example, with the player version of player stats, and I should, that's fine, I won't version control this yet. Yeah, I probably should. Let's version control this real quick, because I didn't with the last patch. Let's see. And this always takes a second to load. With player stats, we've got all of these listed out, right? So we've got strength, stamina, agility, etc. And because of that, when we want to go and pick one of these up, we don't want to have these all just be public and say, give it to me. We've got this long-winded switch cases here and there that say, if you want to add to this, okay, then you want to add to this, and if you want me to return one of these, I think it's collapsed somewhere up here, but you have these really long-winded switch statements that we would have to get into if we go this route, because you don't want to make all of these and you can make them public, but again, you kind of end up doing this anyway. Yeah, we'll go with this just for now. See how it feels. We can always change it if we want to. Let's give this a quick push. Starting monster stats. So I'll just push all of this in case we totally destroy something and need to switch back. That's the beauty of version control. Let's take a snapshot of where we were last night. So we've got get stat. Let's do an add stat. This is going to be a void. We're going to be returning anything, and we're going to do stat, and we're going to do value, and let's see. Let's loop through the whole thing, and let's say if we find one that's already got that stat, do we want to add to it? No, I think that should be an alter stat. We'll make that different. So in this event, we'll do debug log error, and we'll say stat already present on monster. Let's say mob. Let's go ahead and, let's not say monster, let's say entity, because these are going to be generic. used in different places. Stat already present on entity, and we can actually say what that stat is, like so we know what went wrong. And in that event, we're going to return and just not do anything. If we pass through the entire collection and we do not find what we're looking for, and I was actually just recording a video and I told my wife to be quiet, but she doesn't need to be quiet anymore. 今生配信してるからいいよ音出して。さっきはビデオを作ってたんで、今はライブしてるから。I had her silenced so I could focus on my video. Because videos are stressful. Anyway. So, assuming we did not run into an already present stat on this entity, we're going to go ahead and add entity stats, add, we're going to do a new stat alteration using the stat and the value. Simple as that. So we've got an add, we've got a get. Let's also do an alter. Let's say alter stat, and let's just do again value. We're going to go through it. As soon as we find it, we want to, this is going to be a void. Once we find it, we're going to add the value that has been passed here. This could be positive, could be negative, doesn't matter. And then we will return. If we go through the entire loop and we don't find anything, we're going to debug log error. Do we want a warning? I think error is good. Let's say stat not found on entity for alteration. And this is going to be stat. Whoops. I don't think I actually need the toString, but it's not a big deal. And we'll go ahead and just add the value, since it never hurts to have all the information available to you. I'm going to just add a semicolon there. Or is that a colon? I think that's a colon. I forget. So, we've got add, get, and alter. Now, how do we want to handle hit points? We've got health, max health already up here. I guess we can leave those here. We've got damage here as well. I think that's fine. That's basically like weapon damage for a player, but monsters don't actually have an item slot. So we can consider this separate. So the monster is going to have, let's say, melee weapon damage level now. And those are stats. Final damage is not a stat. Hit points are not a stat either. There's health level and there's maximum health. Those are stats. So I think this is really all we need. So now we just kind of need a constructor for when the monster gets generated, which we've already got a method that we go through. Where is that? Generate self. There's some different logic in here based on whether they're a champion, a hero, whatnot. And here, this is where we're just kind of beefing them up. These are the only stats the monsters have right now. So what we want to do actually now is add into this, let's see, we're going to want up at the top somewhere. Where do we want it? I suppose it would be good up here somewhere. AI stuff. could add some dividers in here too for the inspector. We'll worry about that later though. For now, let's go ahead and just put it right here. Let's go ahead and add a divider. Where's an example of that I've got? Under skill templates, have those. Like this. Inspector note. These are handy for organization. This is a plugin that somebody offered up free on the internet. No fighting, kitties. I'll show you what that does here in a second. So we're going to make an inspector note. Hey, what are you doing? Let's say monster stats. Again, let's do, well, this is a monster. We'll say entity stats though. Entity stats note. The name of this doesn't matter. You just need a bool in there for serialization purposes. Note entity stats. And now we will do, I guess this doesn't need to be public. I don't think I even have Twitter on my phone. I was gonna retweet my streaming tweet. I don't think I've been doing this. I dropped my Pixel in the bath. I'm back on my old Xperia, unfortunately. I need to go to the cell phone shop. Yeah, I don't think this needs to be public. Let's see. Player attacks. Doesn't matter. It's all internal. Monster attacks. It's all internal. I don't think there's anything that needs this. And we can write methods to get data out of this if we need to later. So we're just going to do private entity stat holder. And we'll just go ahead and call it that. Entity stat holder equals new. And if he's new, that means he's going to auto-generate this. And when this is generated, since this is new here, that means it'll auto-generate that. So now all we need to do is populate it. So where was our generate self method? Is that up here? Yeah, there he is. So in here, let's see, we've got health, speed, and attack damage already. Oh, and is that how that, yeah, does that work? This needs to be updated a little bit. Yeah, I did player speed yesterday. Had some problems. We haven't done monster speed yet though, because we don't have the same stats the way the players do. Blah, blah, blah. Let's go ahead and just at the bottom of all of that, let's do entity stat holder dot add stat. For example, strength. And what do we want? Should we just do level? We've got the mob level, right? So if he's level 5, he's going to have strength 5. So yeah, that's a fair start. So this is kind of the problem with doing it this way, but it's really unavoidable. You end up doing it in one way or another. I think I put intelligence before wisdom generally. Now, that's cool. And then, the way that player stats work is, for example, when you have a bunch of stats and they get calculated through all of this, what happens is not here, not here, not here. Where is it? Here we go. Award attribute bonuses. So after your buffs and your equipment and all of that gets added on, so your strength is now 27 or whatever, we call award attribute bonuses. And what that does is it awards all of the bonuses that strength provides, like melee, main hand damage level, health regen, etc. So we probably want something similar to this on monsters, because it is cool to have abilities that, explicitly reduce your target's strength, and then it affects all of these things, and you know that it's doing that. You know that you're reducing their melee capability by casting a spell that's reduced their strength, even if maybe you have a different spell that does something more specific. I can just copy paste this whole thing here. We'll have to change it a bit. Is it necessary? Is that the best way to go about things? We do want to have ultimately all of the stats though, don't we? Or do we just want to derive them when needed? That's also possible. That's an interesting way to think about that. Not actually storing them all individually, but when someone says, give me the monster's dodge, the algorithm runs and says, well, he's got this much dex, he's got this much intelligence, and he's got this much wisdom, so this is his final dodge result. That's another way to do that. That would require less repetition, more on-the-fly calculations. I like that, honestly. Recalling this repeatedly, it's what's the word? The computer is super 100% capable of handling that. Any modern computer is, but still, performance is nice. How would we go about that, though? Basically, we would be doing something. Let's go ahead and just copy this for now. Bring it over. If we were trying to get dodge, we'd want to be doing wisdom times 0.02, etc., etc. So what's a good way to alter these? So we don't need reference. Let's say be something like amount plus equals get stat wisdom times 0.2f, right? Basically, if we were doing get dodge, so we would have to write out one for each of these. Is that a better way to go about things? The other way to do that would be to have all of these add to the entity stats And I believe this is all of them that we need. Resist, etc. Everything is included within these. That's probably still just ultimately a better way to go about things. If we were doing it that way, we're going to use this as well. So I'm not going to do that. It was an interesting thought train, though. And we're not going to be referencing stuff directly anymore. We're actually going to change this to alter stat. But I kind of want to make this... I guess we would need a public void recalculate stats. Like this, and in the event of an entity, if we were a player, we would do this all from 0. As a monster, we don't actually want to change strength and stamina back to 0 and then recalculate those from scratch. We want to leave those as is and then calculate the rest out. So it might actually be good to separate the two. We'll do that if we need to, though. For now, we'll leave them as 1, and so if we're going through to recalculate everything, where was I going with that? We don't need this anymore. We're not doing references, for example. We're going to be calling alter stat, right? And we just want to make sure that they start out at 0 when we do a recalc. But basically, well, let's start at the top. Melee main hand damage level, we only need... yeah, we'll leave that as is. We'll do both of those, is what I was trying to say. We're not going to do this, though. We're not going to do the ref. We're going to do alter stat. And our stat is going to be... I believe that is correct, yeah. Melee main hand, and then we want to do... I guess this is not going to be a strength or a switch like this anymore. We just want to go straight. Let's say float strength equals get stat dot strength. So now we've got that guy, and we're going to use that. Strength times 0.3, right? So melee main hand damage level is going to go up by 0.3 for every strength this mob has. And we want to do that for the rest of these stats, basically. Some monsters are going to be dual wielding, is what I'm thinking about with this, but I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that yet. But anyway, first step, well, let's go ahead and do these first. So we're not using our switch anymore. So this is going to be stamina. This is going to be agility. This is going to be dexterity. This is going to be intelligence. And this is going to be wisdom. And we need to change these as well. Wisdom, intelligence, dexterity, agility, and stamina. My sound's working right. It looks like it's working on my streaming thing here, so I hope it is. Anyway, now we can just copy all of these to actually change into this, like so. Dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, like that. And let's go ahead and do that so they organize automatically a bit for us. And now we're not going to be doing amount. We don't want these either. Let's go through and get rid of those. I think there's a few of those. Don't need these. It's mostly just for stats UI in the event of players. We don't want them having magic damage if they don't have a magic weapon equipped. So now we're going to be doing this, and we're not going to be doing amount, comma anymore. We're just going to be doing this. Actually quite simple when you get used to doing things like this. Just replace agility and dexterity and lowercase intel. What did I spell wrong there? Intelligence. Wisdom. And then we just need to go through. We're not using this, are we? Add attribute bonus. No, we don't need that anymore. And then we just need to capitalize these. Unfortunately. Healing, healing, magic, 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 ranged, melee, melee. Did I miss one? This defense skill. Yeah. Bear with me for a moment while I go through these. And we could have done a lookup for some of these as well, but it's not a big deal. Ultimately, this is only going to take me 60 seconds. Just go ahead and do it. Block, parry, defense, skill, energy, health, healing, ranged. M's a bit hard to reach. Assist, oops. Oops. HMR, RR, There we go. Oh, defense skill. Okay. So now I'm going to be adding to these as is. However, we don't actually have them yet. So when it goes to, yeah, we don't need that stuff anymore. This is actually just kind of part of recalc now. These don't exist yet in our list, so we want to add them in, or we could do something like alter stat, and for example, let's say bool add if not present equals false. So normally we're not going to be allowing this, but in the event of these guys, we are going to, let's see, let's change that to look like, oops, comma true. So we're just going to go through all of these, and now in this event, if add if not present means we've made it through the loop without finding what we were looking for. But if we've called true here and we went to add if not present, we're going to just go ahead and do entity stats dot I guess we can just do add stat, huh? Let's do add stat stat value, just like that, and we will return. And if that finds one that's already present, it'll freak out. If it makes it past this, it'll freak out. So that should all be good. So the first pass on these guys, that's all good and fine. But when we call recalc stats, for example, when the player casts a strength debuff on the monster, we want to lower the strength, which will happen through alter stat, and then we're going to go and tell it to recalculate stats. Now when we do that, all of these stats are actually going to be where they were previously, and it's going to add on top of them. So we don't actually want that. So maybe we don't actually want the add if not present thing. I think that that is actually incorrect, now that I think about it. Let's undo that. Quick and easy. And let's actually go through. I'm just going to copy all of these and delete the duplicates. And we're going to say what? Let's bring all of these guys up here. How about we do add stat and then we do a force bool. So we can leave strength and stamina as they are. So we don't need duplicates of those. What we're going to be doing instead is add stat and we're going to be wanting to force it to 0, basically, is what I'm getting at. And we're going to want it to force it. So let's say bool force equals false. What's up, Lucian? That's Stu, isn't it? What's happening, Stu? I'm back. It's only been 6 months. Haven't even finished my first cup of coffee yet. I forget why I stopped streaming. I probably injured myself or something. I don't want to hear it. I mean, congratulations. That would be nice. Lots you can do with that kind of money. Depends on where you live, though, heavily. If you lived out where I do, which is not a bad place. I mean, it's not Tokyo, and I don't want to live in Tokyo, but 100K a year will go a long ways out here. Kansas City. Never been to Kansas City. Being a capital, though, it's probably more expensive than it needs to be. If we're forcing, if we've already found it, so if we found it, let's say if force, and in this case we're going to do else. So if we're not forcing, we're going to throw the error and we're going to return. Otherwise, we're going to do entity stats dot I alteration equals value. So we're going to force it to be that. And in that event, we're going to return. Otherwise, it's going to add it anew. So when the first time we call calculate, it is going to add these all to be 0. That's just fine. Oh, is it not the capital? I'm sorry. What is the capital of Kansas? Oh, I did not know that. Think like New York, New York, Kansas, Kansas. But I guess not. Not the best place, huh? I've actually, honestly, never heard that name, Topeka. I don't think I've ever in my entire life heard somebody say that. Kansas City I've heard many times, but not the best place in the world, huh? That's a bummer. So what we're doing here is we only need to do this once for each of these. So when we find duplicates, we can, let's do all the melee, then do all the ranged, then do all the pools, kind of like that. Because we do want to reset them all to 0. That is going to be a lot of lookups. There's not a ton of stats, though. Let's go ahead and just follow this train, see where it leads. These we want to change to add stat. Not all of them, but the first half here. And we're going to delete actually half of these, more than half of these. We're going to delete most of these. But let's go down the list and see what we've got. Already got these. Ranged crit multiplier we've already got. I made it to stamina somehow already, I think. Magic crit we do not yet have, so we'll leave that there. We're just going to move him up here. Healing as well. We'll put that under magic. Health level, health regen, we've already got energy, mana, there we go. This is the first defense. Okay, melee skill we don't have. Main hand damage, crit, chance, multiplier, we've got all those. Ranged skill we don't have yet either. Healing, health level, energy, we got all those. Here we go, defense, parry, block, dodge. Put those above resist. And I think that's about all of them. Melee skill, well no, yeah, we've definitely got some more range stuff here. Damage, crit, multiplier, crit chance. There we go. Put that there. Skill, damage, magic skill, crit chance. Oh, did I just delete magic skill? I did. I actually want that. Magic skill. We still need magic damage level. There's healing crit chance. Healing crit chance multiplier. We didn't have healing yet? I thought we did. Guess not. There it goes. Got all of these. Got all of these. Magic damage level. I think that is all of them. Healing crit chance multiplier, we got those. Ranged skill, healing crit chance, healing itself we've got, right? Good, good, good. So yeah, these are all duplicates. So what's going on here, let's add a note. This is the reset non-attribute stats to 0, basically. Every time we recalc, and then we are going to award attribute based probably isn't the right word there, but attribute based bonuses is what we're doing here. Strength and stamina and agility and dexterity and intelligence, we got those all right. Now we just need to finish changing these to be 0. Not the best way to do this, unfortunately, other than... Oh yeah, we do it true, huh? Going like this. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there's a... Let's go ahead and copy the semicolon as well. And then we can just go... Oops, that didn't work. Straight from the comma. This. It's annoying to do these things repeatedly, but once they're in and working, you only got to do them once. And this will award our monsters a complete set of stats, not unlike our players. Letting us cast all kinds of debuffs on them, letting them cast all kinds of buffs on themselves, and more importantly, letting us randomly, randomize these kinds of things. So even if we don't want to directly alter these, which we totally can, we can use the add force if necessary. If we find it and we want to change it, that's good, or we can add it, or we can alter it. We might need to add a force into here too later on, but probably not. So going back to the monster script, we're going to add stats like that, and then we're going to do entity stat holder recalc. So we've added their basic attributes based on their level, and now it's going to apply all of these as well. And yeah, when we recalc, we want to set these to 0 anyway, so calling that the first time is just fine, even though this is a bit more code than we would like to be called repeatedly. It's not a big deal. It's just real quick switch lookups and changing of a single floating point value. Not a big deal. Now, the thing that we can do, now that this is in and working, well, there's a few different things that we want to do. Let's get a little document going here. So one thing that we want to do is set up, let's say entity again, not monster. Set up entity, block, dodge, parry, resist, and armor. These are all things that monsters really aren't using right now. Another thing we want to do is set up entity stat randomization. And then further down the line, we want to set up entity, let's see, well, traits is one thing that we want to do. That has some prerequisite steps to it though. Set up, let's see, entity abilities is something we want to do. I think traits are going to be kind of dependent on that. Is there a step I'm missing? There's something on the tip of my tongue here. Stat randomization, I guess. Traits is kind of what I was thinking of, but something along the lines of set up entity classes, basically. So, for example, we could say that the rock elementals are a tank class, just generic classes. We don't have to be specific with monsters. But say that the rock elemental is a tank class, in that case, we could add extra stamina. We could add extra strength. We could add extra armor after we recalculate the first time. Some of these kinds of things. Making the rock elements a much more beefy boy, but not as much damage as, for example, what do we want to do? Who would be a rogue? Who's a melee DPS monster? Say like a wolf, right? They don't have as much stamina, intelligence, or wisdom. Yeah, we want to subtract when we add as well, don't we? So if we're going to make a tank, yeah, the elves definitely. When we add to one pool, we want to subtract from another pool to keep them balanced. So they might be harder to kill, but they do less damage. Or they might do more damage, but they're easier to kill. Or they might be more susceptible to magic, but, things like that. So the easiest way to do this would to be in specific, in that we won't actually say they've got more armor. We'll just say that they've got more stamina. Stats don't actually affect armor, though, do they? I guess. Nothing actually affects armor anymore, right? Just double check, make sure I'm not, yeah, there shouldn't be anything. Stat attributes don't add to armor anymore. Certainly could for, well, they should though for, yeah, that's something that we need to get into actually. Because monsters don't have equipment, for example, we've just got their attack damage specified because they don't actually have a weapon, right? So we need to actually specify their armor as well. Let's say protected float armor equals, we'll just put it at 1, and then when we generate the monster, let's go ahead and add that here as well. Armor equals level, and then so the way that this gets worked out for players is dependent on whether they're wearing light, medium, or heavy armor, not just what level the armor is. So I forget here it is. Armor equals level, and then let's do something like protected, do I already have an enumerator for this? Armor type? Armor, no? What is that called? There is a stat for that. Light, medium. I think that's on skill templates. Attack. Maybe it's usable. Attack. What am I thinking of here? Weapon damage type. No. No. What am I thinking of? Targeting. There's a light, medium. I might have gotten rid of that. I used to use that to auto-calculate damage. Probably don't have that anymore. That's not a big deal. We can make our own. Let's just do it right here. We can do public enum. We'll call it armor type. Or should we just go by class? Yeah, we'll just do this for now and we can change it if we want to. I always like to do null at 0, and let's do light equals 1, medium equals 2, and heavy equals 3. And then we can do protected armor type equals, oh, it needs a name, armor type equals armor type, and we'll just default to medium. How about? Now when we generate our monster, we'll set the armor level, we'll set the armor type. I'll just put it at medium again for now. Then we'll change this based on the class. That was a weird noise. What was that? Sounded like a car horn broke while someone pushed it or something. I guess this is a stat we need to, isn't it? Armor damage type. Armor type damage multiplier. Yeah, these are the two important ones. Armor and the actual multiplier. So, we're going to need that as well. Under stat holder, no, we'll put it up here. Armor type, armor, protected. Armor type damage multiplier equals 1 by default. Again, at medium it would be 1. And we'll do a little switch for this. Armor type damage multiplier. That's not what we're switching. We're switching armor type. And in the case of let's put light here, and we can say armor type damage multiplier equals 1.6 for light. We'll do default as medium, and in this case our damage multiplier is going to equal 1, and we can break out of that as well. And in the event of heavy, we're now going to do 0.4. So now, if our monster is a heavy boy, it's going to mitigate 60% of damage. And it's also going to incorporate the armor level versus the damage level. These might be a little too static, though. What do you think? But that's a good start. I was thinking, we could randomize this a bit to be somewhere between 0.4 and 0.6. But let's just go ahead and make these like the class standards, right? So let's actually go ahead and make a class. Enum. How about? I made a entity stats thing here. Level, tier, health, max health, walk, run speed, good and fine. I guess, yeah, these are all kind of... I kind of want to put this above all of that, to be honest. Is where I'm getting at here. Let's move this stuff up here. Whoops. And whoops. Let's make another note. I'll show you what this looks like here in a minute. Let's call this, what? Entity basics. And I don't think we have any errors, do we? So let's go ahead and get that compiling so I can show you what that looks like. And we'll do... So we've got rank, we've got name, full name. Let's move rank beneath that. And then let's do public enum. We want to call this class. And because this is under monster AI, we're allowed to do this. But class, I probably shouldn't call it class. Archetype, monster AI archetype. Yeah, that works better than class. Class is a programming term that's, super used all over. You just kind of should avoid naming things like that. So let's do archetype. Public enum archetype. And again, since I'm putting this within the class, I can't just call somewhere else. Like, for example, if I save this and I say archetype, it doesn't know what I'm talking about. But if I say monster AI.archetype, then it exists. See how that works? And I saved again, so I need to get that recompiling if I want to use it. So I can show you what I was going to show you. And so yeah, let's do tank. Let's say null equals 0. I don't actually need to specify numbers for these. Do I? Yeah, I probably should, just to be safe. Public enum archetype null equals 0. Let's say tank equals 1. We can say healer equals 2. What else do we got? Melee DPS equals 3. Ranged DPS equals 4. Magic DPS equals 5. Is that it? And we can get fancier with those later, but that's kind of your basics, right? Tank, healer, melee DPS, range DPS, magic DPS. That's your general stuff. Probably should want some hybrids and things in there somewhere. But anyway, before I save that, let's go and look at a monster. Prefabs. Crystal Golem. So now you can see I've got entity basics. I've got these fields showing up here, and this just helps to get things organized with those inspector notes. And because the entity stat holder is serializable, I'm actually able to open this up and look in here. Since we're not in runtime, this isn't actually being generated. It's just existing. But when these guys get spawned in, now they're going to be generating all of this stuff for us. So that's going to be super useful. Saw that all the perms for an app I added to a new site had all the perms from another collection that didn't exist on the new server. Some kind of incorrect database crossover problem or something there? There's so many different worlds in programming. It's crazy. My father is a Perl database administrator, and I have no idea what he does. It's just the program. I mean, well, I know how databases work, more or less, and what his profession involves, but, I couldn't read his code, and he can't read my code beyond the basics. It's pretty funny how that works. Can't we all just get along? So now if we've got our archetypes, and let's say that's just the enumerator, though. We want to actually do public archetype equals, and we'll have them default to melee DPS, I guess. It's what the most of them are right now. So I guess I don't know what perms are. Deleted unique perms. Is that like variables? Oh, permissions. People were saying they had no access. Yeah. I'm sure that all makes sense to you, but not to me. So if we default to, so since this is public, now I can change this right here per monster. So I can make, most of them are going to default to melee DPS. Like they did just now. I wonder if I should have made like generic maybe. Yeah, let's add like a generic something or other there. Generic equals 6. And that's actually what I want these guys to be. Unfortunately, I just spawned them all as melee DPS. So I'm just going to rewrite archetype to be archetype 2. So it's going to get rid of the original archetype. And it's going to make everybody generic. See, it's going through them all right there. Now they're all generic. And we'll just change that back to this so that they're, I don't have to keep that 2. And so if I don't specify something for them, they're going to be generic. Now, if they are generic, we're just going to leave this as is. Do we want to make a new method for this? Do we want to make a new class for this? Where do we want to do this? I'm thinking of making a switch statement. Basically to change these based on their archetype. Maybe we just plug this in. Let's go ahead and add a little divider in here. Let's say entity stat logic. This is all the old stuff above this. I like to add stuff like that in. Let's say they all start out like this. Maybe before we recalculate the stats, and again, we can change the order if we need to. Let's go ahead and do entity stat holder something like we can say public void input archetype. And what we're going to input is actually a monster AI archetype. And in here we can switch based on that archetype. If we are a tank, for example, now we've already input these. Maybe we should do this all right here. Input archetype. Let's also bring in the level like this. And I'm just going to move that right into there. And this is going to be our archetype and our level. And for example, let's do default, which is basically our generic guy. We're going to just go like that. And we don't actually need these anymore. So in the event that we're a generic dude, we're just going to have all of our stats be normal. In the event that we are a tank, however, what do we want to do? We don't really want to just do like +1, -1 because we could be level 50, and the difference of 1 stat at level 50 isn't going to be that huge. We could just do like +5, -5. But again, at level 1, we would clamp down to 0. And then our stamina and agility and stuff would be way up. We do also want to, we want to be messing with our armor too. We're going to have to do that separately though, I suppose, huh? Here, since we're not actually handling, we could pass it as a reference. Input archetype level, and then we could pass references to armor and armor type. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. What else do we have? We have damage, speed, attack damage, speed, max health, right? Max health, walk speed, run speed. I'm not going to mess with speed just yet. How about? That's kind of its own thing. What do you mean sliding scale? In regards to what? Damage, armor type. Reference, max health, reference, attack damage. No, attack damage stays the same. We're going to be using, well, I guess it doesn't necessarily stay the same. Yeah, it's going to be using the same weight system that the new math uses, so it is actually a sliding scale. So, you know, if the monster's dodge is level 45, even though it's a level 50 monster, that means it's going to have a reduced chance at dodging. But if you've got an increased to hit, you can actually overweigh the dodge, you know, etc. Your damage weighed against the monster's armor level versus your damage level is going to affect how much damage it takes and things like that. So they're all sliding scales. Attack damage, I think, is just going to be base 50. But again, depending on class, we're probably going to want to change that. But the level is going to be changing based on their stats. So that's good enough for now. I'm actually not going to reference attack damage just yet. We do want max health. What else do we want? Armor and ref armor type damage multiplier. Right. And then let's bring all of this into input archetype as well. Something along the lines of, well, so if we're generic boy, we need ref float armor, ref float armor type damage multiplier, right? We don't actually need to reference the armor type. We don't even really need to save that, do we? All that actually matters is that we've got the armor and armor type damage multiplier, right? There's not going to be any abilities that are like only damages monsters wearing light armor, right? I don't think that that's necessary. So we can actually move this off of here, right? Put it, doesn't even need to be in here. We'll leave armor type here, I guess, and we don't actually need that saved though. We're only going to be using it for calculation purposes. But again, we don't really actually even need that, do we? We know what our archetype's going to be. Basically, this guy's going to be medium, right? So the armor's going to be level. Damage multiplier is going to be 1. Don't need that logic at all, I think. So let's just get rid of this completely. Let's separate it out a little cleaner so we know what we're doing here. And this guy's going to be 1.6, for example. No, damage multiplier for this guy's 0.4, right? Armor, level, that's fine for now. Just so that we don't forget about it, let's add a magic DPS. So this is going to be a cloth wearer. That means he's going to be at 1.6. Okay. Will the same entity at the same level, will all of the same entity stats be the same? So 50 gobbles will be 50 clones, or will there be a bit of variation? Anyways, it was good to see your face. Need to hang out with the missus a bit. I think you already took off. Stu, nice seeing you. Anytime. No, we do definitely want some variation. Not quite there yet. And even further beyond that, once we get into the trait system, right? First, we want to do these 2 steps just to get things working, because monsters don't actually even block, dodge, parry. We don't have any ranged, we don't have any casters, we don't have any of that yet. So we're going to get that in first. And then, and actually I'm working a little bit now on classes and stat randomization as well. But ultimately, when we get to traits, well, I guess that's not really even quite what you're asking, is it? That will further differentiate different types of monsters. But let's see. So we've got a group of 3 goblins. Are they all the same? Yeah, I don't think they should be. There's no reason not to make them a little bit random here. Let's see now. Kind of the only problem with that, well, you know, it's not really a problem. You can have one goblin be stronger than another. But say I just randomize these all to be, let's say, plus or minus, 1.5, right? So, for example, let's do a math function clamp. We want to do level plus random.range. I don't have, I think I need, yeah, I do have system in here, so I need to specify that as Unity engine dot random dot range. Let's say negative 1.5 to 1.5. So it could be 0, it could be minus 1.5, it could be anywhere in between this scale. And we want to make sure we clamp that to 0. Let's just say, whatever, some huge number. I guess rather than clamp, you could use min. I wonder if that's faster. I don't know. Could say minimum of 0, since we don't actually want the max. Let's go ahead and do that. Math function min. This returns the smallest of 2 or more values. I guess that's not what we want, is it? We want max. Returns largest of 2 or more values. So we want this to always be at least 0, right? Is that fair? I wonder if 0 would weird things out. Probably would weird stuff out, wouldn't it? End up with like 0 hit points or something. Let's go ahead and make that 0.5, which is the minimum level for a monster anyway. But yeah, so if I do this for all of these stats, basically like this, what happens is we've now got the chance of all of these ending up with plus 1.5. So even though the monster is level 1, all of his stats are 2.5. There's also the chance that even though the monster is level 2, all of his stats have unluckily gone down to 0.5. And that's not terrible. It could happen. But do we really want that? And it's not visible to the player. It's not like, oh, I can see that this goblin's stamina is less than the other goblin's stamina. We don't actually even display hit point numbers or strength numbers. We do display damage. But what does that add to the game if we do that? Other than the possibility of some extreme variations. Could just be like 0.5. That wouldn't be much different. Anyway, kind of what I was getting at with that is that it might be better to do sort of a pool system. So say they've got a maximum variance pool of 2, and then that 2 gets spread out somewhere across these fields. So maybe 0.6 goes to strength, 0.4 goes to dexterity, and 1 goes to intelligence. You see what I mean? That way there's not the chance of getting 3, 6, 9 total, or possibly minus 9 total. There's always only ever a possible variance of 2, or whatever we specify. Van Rent, what's up? Russian name that I can't pronounce. How you doing? That's a bit extra computational power. Do we want to bother with that? Probably not. Again, the benefit being that we just get a little bit extra variation in our monsters across the general, the generic mobs, what we call trash mobs, usually in MMORPGs. I don't think that is super necessary. It would be nice to kind of spread the pool out a little bit, though. We could also go, for example, with goblins. You could have some goblins be a tank, some goblins be a ranged DPS, some goblins be a melee DPS, and so on and so forth. That could be something we set up here, where rather than a static archetype, we could have a list of possible archetypes. So this could actually be like an array of archetypes, and then we add in at least one. I'm not sure if you can do that. Equals new archetype array. Can I go like this? Oh, I guess I can. So by default, they've all got at least a generic archetype built into them. That sounds good. But then in the case of, for example, goblins and some guys, maybe they've got chances to be different types of archetypes. I like that. So what are we missing here? We're missing some logic. Archetype, level, reference, armor. Oh, we didn't do max health yet. I missed that. level armor. Yeah, we do need ref, float, max health, armor, damage multiplier, archetype. This is the array now. Archetypes, let's call that. Where's that? Since he is now multiple, and so, whoops, this guy now needs to expect an array, archetypes, and let's now define a monster AI archetype equals, we'll go with generic for starters, and then we're going to pull through, let's see, I guess, yeah, what we want to do is archetypes, and we want to grab a position within that array at random. So unityengine.random.range of, we're going to be using an integer of, let's see, 0 to archetypes dot length. And as you can see here, max is, no, we're using integers, so this is exclusive. So by default we've got 1 in here, which means we're going to be going 0 to 1, but it's actually exclusive when you're doing a range of integers. So we're only ever actually going to get 0 if we're going 0 to 1, which is what we want, because if the length is 1, meaning there's only 1 entry in the array, we only ever want index position 0. So we don't actually want to use the real length. In the event that there's 2, we want to be able to do 0 or 1, though, which is 2 total. But in the array, index position starts at 0. So we have 0, 1, not 1, 2. So that's important. People get stuck on that sometimes. So now we're going to grab a random archetype based on the available archetypes. So if we are a goblin, we might actually not be generic. We might be a tank. We might be a caster. And further down the road, we can actually change their equipment based on that. And the goblins do actually have that. They've got shields. Some of them have bows. I just have them all turned off so that they all just have like a sword, you know, because they're only capable of being generic mobs at the moment. But in the near future, we can certainly turn those on and off and have some different than others. So even though they look like goblins, they're dressed a little different and they're doing things differently and they respond to attacks different. What's up, Bwog? Yeah, I'm going to get back into streaming, I think. I keep saying I think, but let's do it. Here I am, Thursday morning. I think I'm just going to get back into my old schedule of Tuesday to Friday, 9 to noon. Why not? I don't know why I stopped, really, to be honest. So, lots to do, and it is fun to talk about this openly. You know, it kind of helps me work through my own thought processes. It is a little distracting at times. Not directed at you there, Pog, or Stu, but once in a while someone comes in and starts talking about weird stuff. But, you know, I mean, if I'm not streaming, I'm watching YouTube half the time, and, you know, you get distracted in one way or another. So, I shouldn't complain about that at all. So we're going to pick a random archetype out of the possible archetypes. That's cool. Now, if we are generic, we got this. If we're tank, currently we're only boosting up our armor level. So again, how do we go about adding to these? Because we can't, I mean, we can just add on to them. It's possible. I guess that works. You know, we just say like a tank's got 5 extra stamina, 5 extra agility, and maybe he's got 5 less dexterity and what? 5 less wisdom. I guess that works. We just kind of want to make sure that we clamp these. I should be doing that up here too, really. Let's go ahead and do math function dot. Again, we'll do max, and we'll do value, and we'll do 0.5. So we don't really want anything to ever go beneath 0.5, right? That's going to be the minimum, I think, for everything. So let's go ahead and do that. Get stat, alter stat, plus equals value. And let's not do that. Let's do stat alteration equals entity stats I plus, and then again we'll do math function max on that as well, just to make sure that we're never going beneath, because you know you can actually be adding debuffs here. So say you're doing minus 20 armor, but he's only got 10 armor. You don't actually want his armor to go negative, so then stuff gets weird. So we'll make sure that everything is always at least 0.5. So that should be good. And let's do that over here now too then. So math function max. Do we want tanks to be stronger? I guess so. I kind of feel like they're going to be doing more melee damage, when really we want tanks to be beefier more than damagier, right? Yeah, let's leave that one as it is. But anyway, we do want more stamina, so let's do stamina plus, what, 5? 2.5? It's a tank. Let's go with 5. And again, we'll make sure that they're at least 0.5, which we don't, I guess we don't need that with, when we're adding to it, do we? We are going to do, like, for example, dexterity. We're going to do level minus 2.5. And in this case, we want to make sure that we stay above 0.5. I don't actually need this here. It's kind of just unnecessary processing there. And, you know, it's a fraction of a nanosecond, but whatever. Might as well take it off. Agility, I think we do want more of. Let's do 2.5 here. So we've added 7.5 and currently we've only subtracted 2.5. So let's go ahead and do subtraction from intelligence and wisdom as well. Minus 2.5, 0.5, like this, and that's actually the same thing, except there's an F here. So we're adding a total of 7.5, and we're removing a possible total of 7.5 as well. If the mob is low enough level, we'll make sure that these never go beneath the 0.5. And then we're making the armor equal level, but giving him heavy armor. I think that's enough. We don't need to boost the level up here too much. And again, these are, as long as these are all generally, you know, even, spread evenly, it's just going to react different to different types of player builds, right? It's not actually going to make him stronger necessarily. Like this guy's actually now going to be more susceptible to magic damage because his intelligence and wisdom has gone down. Well, and his stamina's also gone up, so that helps too. But and then he's got more hit points, right? His dexterity's gone down, so he's easier to hit. Likewise, intelligence, wisdom, it's easier to hit him, but he's beefier, right? He's got this too, so I think, yeah, and you know, we'll play with it, see how it goes. Let's go ahead and flesh the rest of these out, though. So if we've got magic DPS, we definitely want to do minus strength for that guy. Whoops. And probably, let's see, what do we want? Minus agility as well, huh? Minus, we're going to have stamina as is. Dexterity, we'll get rid of him as well. And let's say we do level +5 and level +2.5 for intelligence and wisdom. So again, 7.5 plus, 7.5 minus. And he's using light armor, heavy armor. We also want to do our melee DPS and ranged DPS. So here, let's go ahead and copy this down, kind of reset these guys. And in the event of a minus, copy that. I'm going to put both of these guys at medium armor, right? And let's give melee DPS strength +2.5. Let's do agility +2.5 and dexterity +2.5. But he's got the rest of them at -2.5. How about? Does that make sense? Stamina, intelligence, wisdom. Maybe we leave intelligence as it is and we get in wisdom down 5. That might work better because intelligence is used to hit logic quite a bit, attack skill and stuff like that. I think ranged is going to be just the same, actually. Mostly the same, anyway. How about we do... Yeah, let's go ahead and do 2.5 for these as well. Like that. So we're getting +7.5 still and -7.5 still on all of these. I think that was all of our archetypes, right? Tank. Oh, we don't have a healer. Don't have any healing classes really planned out, to be honest. But they do make for interesting gameplay when you've got one of the goblins healing the other goblins. That certainly makes you think. So I think we will go ahead and do that. Tank, DPS. What if we have a healer? They are going to be medium armor. In my universe, clerics generally can wear leather. This guy's default, right? Okay, good. That just means anything that doesn't fit with any of these other switch statements will go to this guy. So we're describing everything except for the generic archetype. So basically, anybody that's generic is just going to go here and be normal. So in the event of a healer, strength can be level, it's normal. Stamina can be, stamina probably we want to be plus. Agility, I'm not going to give him intelligence. I'm going to give him wisdom +2.5. Stamina +2.5. And that's it. So let's do -5 total for this guy. Probably dexterity. And what? Should we go with strength? Should we go with agility? I suppose agility, huh? Because cleric, I'm using the more kind of the Dungeons and Dragons cleric archetype, where they're like mace wielding. They can hit you good when they want to. So I don't really want to take away from his strength. So we'll get rid of agility and dexterity, but add to stamina and wisdom. I think that's pretty good. And again, he is medium armored. Alright. So, when we generate a monster now, we're going to... It's only 2 new lines of code in this part here. We're going to add... to its... We're going to define an archetype. We're going to feed in the level. And that's based on that and the archetype. We're going to generate a bunch of stuff. We don't have the max health generating yet, do we? Armor type, damage multiplier. These are getting modified. We still need to do max health somehow. The base max health is... not defined right here. I believe it is defined in the generate bit. No? Where do we got that? Get monster health. We made a value. So it's just, right now we're just setting it to 500 by default, no matter what. And this actually gets scaled, again, when you're playing. So if you're level 2, it looks like it's only got, like 60 health, but actually under the hood it does have 500 health, and your attacks are actually doing a lot more damage than they show. It changes the appearance of those numbers, just so it feels like you're scaling, but you're actually not, to keep everything under the hood in line. So we're setting it to 500 right here. And then we're going to feed that into our input archetype. And we are doing add stats, and then we're going to do recalculate stats after that. So, we're not actually changing health here, though. Health level is changing, that's right. Okay. So, I think we can just go ahead and do that. After we input archetype, we can recalculate stats is going to be called a number of times whenever we apply debuffs or it applies buffs to itself. So I'm worried about changing max health repeatedly within that method, but should be fine. Yeah. Recalculate stats. So we're not actually going to do that here, are we? I don't think so. We're going to predefine this stuff. We're going to get rid of this. We're actually going to do that down here. Let's do reference health and reference max health. And when we do that here, we're going to ref float health, ref float max health. And we're going to go through and calculate our stats based on our attributes, and included in that is our health level, which you can see primarily under stamina. Energy level, mana level, we're not going to be using just yet. I'm not going to worry about those, but once this is all said and done, let's see, we added a note there, didn't we? Award attribute based bonuses. Here we want to update pools, which are health, mana, and energy. So let's see. max health is going to equal 500 plus. And let's go look at how players do this. For example, we've got under combat math. Where is that? It's not under combat. Where did I put that? Global. Get health. Yep, this is the one right here. So basically, something like this. 500 plus, let's say, get stat.health level. And then that is minus, we're not passing the level in here, are we, huh? Okay, float level. We do want to make use of that. So the mob's level is what the assumed level of its stat should be. So again, if we're doing a generic mob, everything's going to be at 1, and that's going to generate an equal level of an equal health level for its level. So this is going to come out to 0, and so we're just going to be adding plus 0 to it, basically. So if he's got increased stamina, he's going to get extra health. And we have set our tank, for example, to be plus 5, right? So that's actually not a ton. For players, it's going to be 10 hit points per stamina. I think for monsters, is that enough? So if we're at 500 and we're only at 5, that's only going to be plus 50. So a tank's going to be 550, while a caster is going to be 450. That sounds like not enough difference. And there will definitely be buffs and debuffs in play, but those will be similar, like minus 5 levels, minus 10 levels kind of thing. Let's do a clamp. $500 plus the difference there times 20. That's still not that much. Let's say 25 for monsters. And then we will clamp that to a minimum of 250 up to a possible 9,999. We are going to use this for hero mobs and boss mobs as well. So we do want them to be able to have some pretty big health numbers. Let's go ahead and just make that big for now. Probably never going to get up that high, but you know, whatever. Yeah, I guess we don't actually need to clamp it again. Let's go with the max method. So if we get less than 250, we're going to just leave it at 250. Which, how much difference would we need for that to happen? I guess a difference of 10 is it, right? 10 times 25, we'd have 250. So, currently we're only doing 5. So only adding 125 hit points. That's pretty good though. So tanks are going to be 625. some of the DPS guys are going to be 375. Yeah, and you know, we can adjust that as we go. We'll try it out. Good start. So, we are now updating. We got to pass in level there. We are now updating stats properly. We are updating maximum health and armor, but we're still not making use of those when damage comes in. So, let's see. Attack entity is the method we're looking for. Here we go. We're currently only weighing the damage against the level. So prior to that, I'm doing this afterwards, huh? I guess that's fine. Prior to this, let's do attack holder dot damage equals combat math dot adjust. Let's see, apply armor damage reduction. So we've got our attack holder dot damage from the player coming in. And this is, what do we want to use here? This is our, is that the old method, isn't it? What's the new method? Mitigate damage with armor, that's what we want. Wrong one. Mitigate damage with armor, and we're going to be using the damage attack holder dot damage level, and we're going to be using the mob's armor and the armor type damage multiplier, which we are now setting up during generation. So equal damage level versus equal damage armor of medium armor type is going to result in 100% damage. So it'll just stay like it is. But now that we've got tank mobs are going to be getting a 60% reduction in damage. Now, in the future, let's go ahead and plug that in actually. Let's see, I don't think that all the skills are yet doing this, but if attack holder dot damage type is equal to, see, we've got basically non-magic, right? For armor reduction. If it's bludgeoning, if it's piercing, if it's slashing, and is that it? What else do we got? Water, slashing, piercing, right? So if it's non-magic damage, then we're going to apply armor reduction to it. So magic damage works good against tanks, even though they've got increased hit points, right? And they will actually have increased resist. Else, let's see, is this just a blanket statement, or do we need an if here? What are our other options? Magic. Well, I guess disease, is that magic? Wonder if we need a different stat for that. Like, what? Constitution? Purity? You know how like paladins have disease resistance? But it's not necessarily arcane magic resistance, right? Like a zombie's not actually magicking disease on you, or like a snake isn't magicking poison on you, right? You're just getting bit by a snake. So that, I think that needs to have some other kind of resistance. What do we call that? Resistance? No, resistance is magic resist. It's already a stat in game. What other stat do we use for that? I'll have to think of that and write that down. Need a defensive stat versus disease / poison. And maybe it's just poison resist, disease resist. Those could be stats. Think about that. Anyway. So yeah, arcane, definitely. And not disease. We'll do earth, electric, fire, ice. I think that is it. We've got water. So these are like all the magic types. Right. In that case, we're going to mitigate damage with resist. Do we need to change this? Actually, resist is a dodge attempt, isn't it? Well, that's how I was thinking about it anyway. It's not actually, doesn't actually exist in game yet, so we could change it right here now if we want to. Mitigate damage with resist. Would this be the exact same thing? Resist level and resist damage multiplier. No, we want to just if the resist level is higher than... You do want a chance to resist it though, like how you've got a chance to dodge or for a chance for an attack to miss, right? Spell should have a chance to just get resisted outright. Should be a low chance though. Where is dodge? Yada yada. Skill to hit, critical healing, get health, energy. Well, where is this guy? Skill chance. 0 to 40% with a base of 5. I suppose that's what we want, isn't it? Defense, dodge, parry, block, and criticals. Doesn't actually stay resist there yet, but it should. Let's go ahead and add that right here. This is something we've actually never done in the game. And resist. Similar to defense, right? But it also doubles as a damage reducer. Are we going to do that? I suppose that's something different, really, isn't it? That's like fire resistance. So just your basic resist skill is a chance to just outright negate the damage. So in this event, yeah, and actually we're not doing this stuff yet, are we? Block, dodge, parry, resist. We set up armor right now, but first of all, miss is actually being calculated by the player, if I'm not mistaken. We should move that over here. I'll leave it as it is for now, because we're 5 minutes from lunch. But, for example, this is the basic attack skill. So if we go down to melee, we're calculating the to hit chance right here. Should probably move that onto the monster, to be honest. I'm going to add a note down here. Move player to entity, miss logic onto entity. I don't need to save that. And then for one thing, even if you miss the first attack, you should still be able to double attack. There shouldn't be a yield break here. So yeah, we'll change that later. But for now, we need to do miss, we need to do dodge, we need to, no, it's not 3. We need to do block, we need to do parry. And miss is also resist. So that actually goes up here. So we don't have resistances yet, I guess is what I was getting at here. We do have armor capable of lowering bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, but we don't actually have magic resistances. We have the resist skill, but that's like the defense skill, but for magic. Okay, so this is currently being calculated on attacks. Should be moved here. Resist. If the attack holder is any of these types, we're going to attempt our skill check, which was right here. Get skill chance. Combat math dot get skill chance. The assumed stat. Well, we need to weigh this against the level, right? So yeah, the assumed is going to be that. Okay. So get skill chance stat value equals entity stat holder dot get stat resist, which monsters now have, and we're going to be weighing that against the attack holder's level. So if it is a magic spell coming at us, and this is going to be a random range of 0 to 100F. This is going to return a number between 0 and 40. The higher the monsters resist, the greater the chance of resisting. So if we're less than this number, the monster has successfully resisted. And we don't need to do a variety of things. I'm wondering if we can just straight say, you lose, and then break out of this method completely. I don't think so. I think we're going to want to still do aggro timers and some things like that. So the way that I do it on players is I actually have I don't need that. That's just for debugging purposes. So yeah, we're not going to do this. What I'm going to do is miss equals false. We're going to have a resist, a dodge, block, and a parry. And in this event, we're going to say that resist now equals true. So the monster has resisted the attack. And this is only possible if miss did not trigger. So let's say if not miss and like so. If we've already missed, we don't need to worry about this. And likewise down here when we get into dodge, if not miss and not resist. You are capable of dodging. That's a tough one. Fireballs. One would think. You could dodge it, but not necessarily like an AoE attack, right? The explosion of a fireball you can't really dodge. Probably need to add some extra logic for that. We'll get into that in the future. Don't have to worry about it just yet. We can go ahead and say you can dodge, you know. So basically we'll do the same thing here. The monster will try to dodge using its dodge skill. versus the attack holder skill. Isn't it? Yeah, it's skill, isn't it? It's not just level. Few things I need to double check here. I think it's skill. But I'm not actually damage level. I'm putting that here. I'm not actually applying skill yet, am I? Because it wasn't necessary. Will be now. Player stats get melee skill. Get stat dot melee main hand. Oh, it's just melee skill, isn't it? Yeah. So we're gonna have damage level as well as skill. Skill gets used against miss, resist, dodge, block, parry. And then damage level gets used against armor. That means it's connected and it's dealing damage. Yeah. Let's write that down here just to point it out so I don't forget, because I'm going to have to update a number of other things with that. Mostly just on this template, but attack holder skill. Yeah, this is versus defense, resist, dodge, block, parry. Whereas this is versus armor. And then resistances. So not resist. We might have to come up with a different name for these. But I think if it says, fire resistance, that makes enough sense. That's a bit further down the road, though. We'll get there. Time for lunch. I'm going to head to lunch. We got a good start on this, though. Basically, monsters are now going to attempt to juke you, resist you, dodge you, block you, parry, just as the player does. And they're now going to be armored. They're now going to be classed. And as soon as all of this is working, we're going to be able to set up some abilities. So some of them are going to start throwing magic at you, and maybe you're super armored up, but it's not going to matter if your resistance is crap. Likewise, maybe you've got great magic resistance, but you're not armored up. So it's going to add a lot more variance into the combat. And after that, this is going to take a while, I'm pretty sure. But, we'll get some basic fireballs and lightning and stuff like that set up. Then we're going to get into traits where monsters have, maybe it's a poisoned goblin, or it's a tainted goblin, or, an etheric vampire or something, and that gives them, maybe they pull on a new table of abilities, or it alters their stats in some way, etc. So that's fun. I love that aspect of action RPGs, like Diablo 2. But yeah, this is kind of all secondary stuff that I'm working on right now, to be honest. The skill trees are still the main focus, but kind of drives me nuts if I work on the same thing for more than 100 hours in a row. So nice to take a little break, do something like this. But I'm going to go to lunch and get back into this after lunch. I only stream during the AM. And I think I'm going to be streaming again for, my previous schedule of Tuesday to Friday, 9 to noon. So it's noon here now. So, Japan time. Might be different depending on where you are. Thanks for sticking with us, Durgar Chaser. Don't give in to playing evil characters. Down with the Durgar. So anyway, thanks for sticking around. I recorded a video for Patreon before I went live. I gotta go up that later on too, etc., etc.